go.
A British man facing execution on death row in Florida has made a final appeal to have his conviction overturned. Krishna Maharaj, a former millionaire, was found guilty of murdering 2 people in 1986. More than 100 British MPs have signed a petition supporting him, and 2 British lawyers have been fighting his case.
The 7 members of Florida's Supreme Court gathered for what may be the last best chance for Krishna Maharaj to escape the electric chair. Presented in part by 2 British barristers, a final motion to have his case reopened and his conviction quashed. Once a highly successful businessman and racehorse owner in England, Krishna Maharaj came to grief when he moved to Miami in the 80s. Accused of what prosecutors called the cold, calculated and premeditated murder of a business associate with whom he'd fallen out, and his son, an accidental witness, shooting them at close range in room 1215 of this downtown hotel. Maharaj has admitted he was there earlier, but says he's innocent, and his lawyers now claim they can prove it.
The evidence basically shows that we've got all these alibi witnesses, proves that he couldn't have been there at the time of the murder. Evidence that shows that the victims had been involved in a massive, massive drug rip-off that I think probably leads us to the people who I think committed this crime, who are some drug dealers.
By British standards, Maharaj's supporters claim his trial was bizarre, to say the least. Halfway through, the judge was arrested on corruption charges and had to be replaced. The defendant only testified to his innocence during sentencing proceedings when it was too late. A jury voted for execution by a margin of 7 to 5.
May it please the court. I'm Geoffrey Robertson, QC. I represent...
In court, counsel for the prisoner argued on technicalities and evidence, that a judge who threw out one appeal should never have heard the case, that new facts had emerged, and that the original trial was deeply flawed.
The stark fact is that Krishna Maharaj never really presented a defense. No defense evidence was really heard. Some existed then, more exists now. That evidence cries out to be tested.
All in all, the lawyers for Krishna Maharaj felt it had gone well, but the state too had a chance to make its case to continue towards execution.
This man's fingerprints were found, 14 of them, in a room which had been cleaned that morning, including on a newspaper bearing the day's date.
What is literally a life or death deliberation by the Florida Supreme Court may take weeks or even months. If his case is not reopened, Krishna Maharaj will depend on direct pleas for mercy, unless his lawyers say the British government intervenes with an appeal of its own. Bill Turnbull, BBC News, Tallahassee.
Here, members of the 3rd largest teachers' union, the Association of Teachers and Lecturers, attending their annual conference in Torquay, have come out against government plans to encourage the creation of more grammar schools. The union's General Secretary, Peter Smith, condemned proposals to increase selection as an opportunist attempt to win votes. The Swiss government is complaining that uncertainty over plans for European monetary union is damaging the country's economy. Speculators are turning to the Swiss franc as a safe haven from the turmoil they fear may engulf the currencies involved in monetary union, sharply increasing its value. Our Europe business correspondent Jonathan Charles reports from the ski resort of Klosters.
The Swiss Alps boast some of the world's most dramatic scenery, but this year the winter sports enthusiasts aren't impressed. Although Klosters may be popular with the British royal family, many people are staying away. Foreign skiers complain Switzerland is now too expensive. The Swiss franc's sharp rise in value against other currencies is to blame. The tourist industry, vital to the economy, is suffering the worst booking slump for 2 decades. Old traditions die hard here. The Swiss are proud of their independence, shunning membership of the European Union. It's such isolation which fuels the franc's attractiveness to foreign investors. Switzerland is regarded as a safe haven. The franc might escape the turmoil which could rock the foreign exchanges after any postponement of the EU's single currency plan.
We are seen by some investors as an island in a uncertain Europe. This perception might be wrong, but it's certainly there.
And in the shadow of the Alps, the big names of Swiss industry are dealing with the fallout from investors' perceptions. At the Victorinox factory, Swiss Army penknives are manufactured for export. But the franc strength means the knives will be dearer for foreign customers. Sales could be affected. Victorinox is irritated that it's victim to forces beyond its control.
We are not a member of the European community, and therefore we have to live with the situation and try to do our best to improve our productivity.
But enjoying the last of the season's snow, the Swiss are aware that may not be enough. Unemployment is rising here already. Switzerland, renowned for economic stability, has been pushed to the very brink of recession. The pain may have to be endured for at least another year, as long as the prospects for European monetary union remain uncertain. Jonathan Charles, BBC News, Cloisters.
The tourist industry in West Wales is facing its first big test this Easter, following the Sea Empress oil disaster 7 weeks ago. Most of the oil is now gone, and hoteliers are hoping that the intensive clean-up will persuade visitors to return to the area's beaches.
The Sea Empress herself is now berthed at the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast. Her damaged hull will be inspected in dry dock, and a decision taken then whether to repair or scrap her. Across the Irish Sea, most of the 70,000 tonnes of oil she spilled has dispersed or been recovered from the beaches. This was Tenby North Beach just over a month ago. As the Easter holiday approaches, the transformation is impressive, but small particles of oil remain, and the beach is raked to prevent them collecting into balls of tar.
The next week looks pretty sick as well.
Hoteliers in Tenby had been expecting a bumper season after last year's scorching summer. Now the signs aren't good.
The phone's been very quiet for 3.5 weeks or more. Easter is a very great unknown factor, and as we come up to it, really just got no idea what's going to happen. It normally involves people coming at the last minute, but having said that, our bookings in comparison with last year for the Easter weekend are at least 50% down.
Bookings have been hit well beyond the area directly affected by the oil, but as the finishing touches are made to the clean-up, the tourism industry knows it can't afford to give false reassurances about the state of the coastline.
We don't want to persuade people to come if there is still oil around, and at the moment there's no doubt that there is a little. As soon as it's completely clear, we want to bring people back in large numbers through getting rid of the misperceptions that have been caused.
The visible effects of the oil spill are gradually disappearing, but the unseen environmental damage is much more difficult to measure. And it's not just the coastal area which is affected. The pollution is having a serious impact well inland. Anglers meet in a pub near Carmarthen to discuss compensation claims. A total ban on catching migrating fish like salmon and sea trout is in force on all rivers emptying into the oil-affected waters. A government-appointed panel of experts has just started work assessing the full environmental impact of the spill. As the sun comes out in Tenby for the Easter weekend, the shadow of the Sea Empress still hangs heavily over the area. Tim Hirsch, BBC News, Pembrokeshire.
And the main news tonight, the IRA has delivered a defiant Easter message. The government sees it as a clear threat, but Sinn Féin insist it's not all doom and gloom. Newsnight is on BBC2 at 10:30, but that's the 9 o'clock news. Good night.